Hello, welcome back to just another football podcast. A special beards. Oh no, I'll do the intro again. Sorry. Hello, welcome back to just another football podcast, a special edition because I realized that your beard game is strong as well, and I'm leaving my beard a bit these days. Is that a conscious decision, Fergal?
Conscious in that I wanted to grow a beard.
Yes.
And every night before I go to sleep, I just close my eyes and go, just try and make it like grow a little bit more.
I do the same thing. It's actually effective. Mm-hmm.
If anybody that can't grow a beard, I'd say that's your best step. Don't try and waste your money on those little spiky roller things. Just go, I'm a man, and it kind of works. No, I've been I've just let it go. I haven't really got any good beard trimmers, so it kind of stays like this until I go to my barber's. But I don't really want my barber to do it because it will cost at least £10. So yeah. And my haircuts are already pricey enough.
Leave it. It suits you. Wait, hang on.
Yeah, it's getting a bit. It's getting a bit wild though. I don't think this camera is good enough to pick up just how wild it is, but it does get a bit like it's edging towards Roy Keane, and I don't think I suit that look.
Yeah, Roy Keane's is a bit much. Roy Keane's is like
whenever Roy Keane really lets it grow, and it's like
yeah, no, I never want to get to it. Whenever it gets on like that, I just straight in, then it just goes to grow back up again. So. Okay. You were at the Gaelic Football.
Yes.
I happened to watch.
Do you want to try and say the names of the teams that we're playing?
Wait, hang on. If I get the chat, I will. I actually think I can pull it off. Tyrone versus Monaghan.
Oh, close.
Tyrone.
Tyrone's correct. Although it's more you sort of roll it all into one. So instead of Tyrone, you can't. It's not necessarily wrong, but most people just go Tyrone, almost like a TI sound.
Tyrone, yeah.
Tyrone, but Tyrone's is also correct, I'd say.
Okay, and what about Monaghan?
Monaghan.
Close. Okay, yeah, okay, that's understandable. Yeah, and my response to that was that they sound like it sounds like a middleweight undercard boxing.
Yeah, a boxing. Yeah, definitely. The Tyrone bit as well.
Yeah,
but yeah.
First names. Yeah, how's that? Because you were at that today.
It was I'm not overly into Gaelic football. I probably should be more into it, but sort of went with mates that were supporting Monaghan. And I would support Tyrone, even though I'm not really from Tyrone, because my dad's from there. So yeah, Tyrone were cruising through, got to half time, were 4 points up, and then Monaghan had a great second half and really, really good second half, really tight, and Monaghan just nicked it. Tyrone got a point right at the end. Point. Is when you kick it over the bar between the two goalposts. You get 1 point, and then if you score a goal, put it in the net, you get 3 points. So Tyrone went 1 up with like probably 5 minutes left in normal time, and then there's 6 minutes of added time. So went about 5 minutes to go, or even less than that. I think it might have been like last couple of minutes.
Wow.
And then Monaghan went down the other end and scored a goal to go 2 points ahead. And it was quite a risky play because there's a saying in Gaelic football that take your points and the goals will come. So sort of like take the safer option of getting at least a point as opposed to a riskier option getting a goal.
And the point is like put on like the NFL polls, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You stick it over the bar. So they put. Instead of going for a point, which would have evened the tie up and kept them in it, like they didn't need to go for a goal. He went for goal, scored. It was actually pretty poor goalkeeping especially for if you're looking at football standards. It was done at the near post quite easily. sort of didn't get into a good stance. But Gaelic football goalkeepers, it's more about distribution than it is about saving the goals, because they don't get too many shots in at them. But this one counted for a lot, and that pretty much got them over the line then. But really good game, and I'm not too into it, so I wasn't too disappointed. But yeah, good wee day out. Lovely weather, as well for it.
The weather here is sensational.
Yeah,
The
it was
weather is great.
just it was about, I don't know, 15 degrees or so. Just lovely.
Now I'm slightly jealous. Weather here is it's been 80s Fahrenheit, 20s, let's say high 20s, which I don't prefer, but it's still been good. My weekend was good too. Just to say, last weekend I was talking about the this past Saturday, so it would have been last night as we're talking, the charity stream that that I had. We did that, and I mentioned, so we recorded on the Tuesday. By that point, I think we were midway through, and we were just over £1,500 raised. We surpassed £5,000 raised.
That's amazing.
That is, it's beyond anything anyone would have expected. Miles Jacobson chipped in, and there was like an anonymous £300 donation at the end, £300+ donation at the end. It was like more than 250 people, I think, donated conservatively. More than 250. It might have been close to 300 people, honestly, in total, like 300 unique individuals, which is just out of the world. Yeah. So yeah, it was good to be involved in. Good way to, go out of Twitch. Did you know I'm not streaming anymore, Fergal?
Yeah. I just saw your tweets about it. Yeah.
So yeah, that was my last tweet. That was my tweet. That was my last Twitch stream. So for that to happen, like for my last Twitch stream to be that is great. Yeah, just wanted to acknowledge that at first, because it was a great time. It was honestly such a fun time. It made me slightly regret quitting, but no going back now. On we move.
Yeah, I wasn't on last week as well,
Yeah.
because I was at the old firm last week.
Yeah.
Which was incredible. I don't know if I'll ever top a good game as that, unless I go back.
See, I watch the old firm. I love watching old firms because the atmosphere is always it's always packed and so loud all the time. We barely ever find that, even in Premier League derby games. Like you don't see the constant singing and shouting and yelling and screaming all the time. Like the closest thing, the only example I can think of from English football in general was Liverpool-Barcelona 2019.
Just like how loud it was.
Just constantly.
Through the tally.
Yeah, or like a 2008 Champions League game, Liverpool-Chelsea, something like that, or 5. But
yeah.
No.
But
tell me more.
It was unreal. Like the atmosphere was great. I was in the stadium really early.
Mm-hmm.
It was all 100% Celtic fans this year because of a dispute with over how much away fans should be taken, or how many away tickets should be given.
We want you to get 200. No, we want to get 2,000. Okay, you're not gonna get any tickets.
Yeah, it's based. Yeah, long story short, you're spot on with that sort of thing. So yeah, it was a bit of tit for tat, and then they end up just going, no, nobody's getting either way.
That's a shame.
Which is a shame because it kind of takes from the atmosphere, but the Celtic fans are incredible. And they had a couple songs, they'd like classic Celtic songs on before. They've done "You Never Walk Alone," which was unreal. And then the game kicked off, and it was a really good. Like it wasn't the highest of quality. Like there was some really big blunders in the game.
Yeah.
But it was a great game for like sort of a neutral. I'm sort of half neutral. Sort of I did want Celtic to win, so I'm not not that neutral. But yeah, great day, and then had a great night afterwards. But honestly, as an atmosphere, it's so good. I did feel a bit bad just being like this is my first Celtic game. And it doesn't get much better than this. I have like a mate that sorted out the ticket who lives over in Glasgow. So and he was like, yeah, maybe Champions League are the only potentially better games than this. So yeah,
Wow.
And maybe a game where the Rangers fans are in the stadium, that would be it could be even better. But the amount of songs that they have, the ultras, the tifos, like just so good. It was just electric, the whole thing. And yeah, it's one ticked off the bucket list, like. So
Good.
but I think I'll be back over to a Celtic game. Maybe not the Old Firm for another while, but I heard the away games are meant to be unbelievable crack to go on. Like any away game in Scotland with Celtic's meant to be great. So perhaps something like that in the future.
I mean, the Old Firm happens like 20 times a season or something.
Yeah, it's like four times, and then if in any of the cups as well. So
yeah. Okay. Well, how do we move to the current football from this week? We'll speak with Harry in a little bit about Arsenal, because he messaged me specifically. He messaged like the little group chat we have, and he was like, I want to go on rant about Arsenal and F off. That's all he wants to do. So I don't know whether or not to look forward to this. I'm pretty sure he will have taken his breath a bit. But Arsenal did, squander, let's say, a 2-0 lead. I'll talk about the term bottle, because that's been like very heavy in Twitter spaces. I'll talk about that with Harry, I think. But I have my feelings about.
Well, we already know what Harry's gonna say, but like,
yes, we do. What do you think he's gonna say?
It's not a bottle. He always just seems to always worm his way. He never fully committed to like being like it'd be a disappointment even if they lost the league, because he always brings it back to like expectations at the start of the season, and doesn't really bring it into the context of the last of like a 10-game spell. I still think they bottled Champions League last season. I really do think that was like a capitulation.
Yeah,
near the end of the season
is a bottle. If they if they had a target and they were there and they capitulated, that is, they squandered it.
Especially in the way they done it. Like it was like the last year, like the some of the performances were just a bit pathetic near the end of the season. Whenever they're so close, that to me is like you just whereas, and then maybe they're just a bit unlucky. Like today, I'm sure you'll get into it with Harry, but like Saka missing the penalty, there's a couple of things that, but
they can point to.
They should have put the game to bed, definitely.
Big time. I personally, I still think it's in their hands. Just as a preview too.
Well, it literally is in their hands.
It is.
Still 1 point, even 4 points at the moment. City have a game in hand, so even if City have that extra game, they still have 1 point. But then they're still to play City, aren't they?
Yeah, they are still to play City, and I have to say Arsenal's fixtures are harder than City's.
People keep bringing up Chelsea. What we get?
We'll get Chelsea in a bit.
Okay. I'll hold off. Yeah. All I'm saying is, at the moment, I wouldn't be too fucking worried about Chelsea. I will get into it anyway. Go on, carry on, Ali.
But no, Chelsea's not the hardest. City though is getting more difficult.
City's
by
the
the
big
week.
One. That is pretty much a title decider.
Yeah, and the way City have figured out how to perform and where to start people in the 3-2-4-1 they've been doing.
Yeah.
It's starting to look a bit scary, because you never know which players are where. You can find De Bruyne hugging the touchline on the left, and the next move, or within the same phase of play, he's in the middle driving, like passing a through ball to Erling Haaland. Kyle Walker starts central in defense and then shifts out in a wing back position right back, because you have 3 central defenders, because Stones starting as like part of a double pivot with Rodri. Stones drops into center back, and then Kyle Walker is immediately on the right hand side by the touchline. Nathan Ake the other way left. It's extremely fluid, and it's starting to look very well structured and drilled, and it starts to create, because regardless of game state and the build up situation, they always seem to have some sort of numerical advantage. Because let's take it from back to front. In the back, they have a 3-2 that can be just like a 5 flat, and then you can have support from Bernardo, who's played DM before. Kevin De Bruyne can.
And they're all quite tall as well. They're all of them are nearly all like centre back figures, like, so like they're quite physically imposing.
And Diaz and Laporte and Stones were starting together.
Yeah.
And Nathan. Was Nathan Ake starting? No, I don't think he was that time. But all 3 of them were starting at the same time. And Kyle Walker, like, he's not small.
No.
And he's very fast. And then you have Rodri as well. So, like, getting through, like, matching physically with them is as hard as it is. But having them all start together.
It's almost like something like Sean Dyche would nearly do. Like, have like this like back 5 of like 6'2" apart from Nathan Ake if he's on. But like Nathan Ake like makes up for it. Like he's he's been one of the best centre backs this season, which I just never saw coming at all. Like, but it, like. It is something like Sean Dyche's wet dream, that like just all these massive players in defence.
Yeah, and then you move up, and then John Stones is a extremely competent ball player. So if you want him to be like a playmaker, sure. If you want to build up from the right, Kyle Walker will move right, and then Stones will cover for him, like drop into this center back position they broke off of. Sure. And then Kyle Walker will go right. And then you have Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne waiting, ready to build up. On the left, Kevin De Bruyne has an extremely free role. He can go anywhere he wants. So if build-up's on the left, Kevin De Bruyne, Jack Grealish. And then Laporte will step up if they need to like complicate build-up more and drag, string a few passes together, drag the press, and then switch it to the other side. And then there's Haaland. And to think that Julian Alvarez and Ilkay Gundogan are on the bench, and Nathan Ake was on the bench. It's scary. It is scary. And now, in this game, Erling Haaland scored twice, of course. One of them a penalty. And now he has 32 goals. He has equaled Mohamed Salah's inevitably to be broken record of 32 goals in a 38 Premier League game season. The only thing I'm hanging on to, Fergal, is that he has 5 penalties. So he still needs to score 5 more non-penalty goals to equal Mohamed Salah's non-penalty record. Because Salah took 1 penalty that season, missed it. So all 32 goals were open play, which is insane in of itself. But like maybe he gets like a nibble and is out for a game. Maybe he just like, I don't know, goes through a dry 2-game spell, then scores twice in the next 3, and then we still have that record.
Maybe Pep goes full Pep mode, overthinks it, and starts Julian Alvarez.
Maybe I want to play with Julian Alvarez.
Bit of Pep roulette.
Yeah, Harry will certainly be hoping so. But Leicester looked. I don't want to. It's hard to talk badly about professional footballers that way, especially in the highest quality league in the world, as we know.
You just watch me in a few minutes, Ali, but you crack on.
Oh, yeah.
I'll demonstrate how to do that in a few minutes.
I look forward to it. Leicester honestly looked in every way incapable, and on, like, The one moment that I liked was James was it Madison in the second half? He like went past somebody and nutmegged the other, and went down. It wasn't a penalty. It was just like a coming together, as they say it. That was the only good moment, apart from the goal. And I think Inacho hit the post when it didn't matter, in the last second. Other than that, I think they looked there was just a lot of lack of understanding of what the next move is going to be. Like they would stop so long and look around so much and just get picked off, or the pass would just get to a Man City player. Like they would. That's how the first goal was. I think Dewsbury Hall was just like the lamest pass. Kevin De Bruyne just simply picks it off and drives and slides it to Erling Haaland, breaks a couple defensive lines, and Haaland finishes. I don't know, man. Up until 2 weeks ago, I was saying Everton, Southampton, and Bournemouth to go down. Definitely Leicester now. You think?
I haven't paid an awful lot of attention to that. I was going to say that half the table, but that low down the table.
Honestly, good for you, because there's a lot of bad.
Going on. Yeah, I'm just looking at the league table. I mean, their form is put like the bottom three teams all have the same form pretty much. They all have 4 losses and a draw. Chelsea only better by 3 losses and 2 draws, better by 1 point. But
up next on the Just Another Football podcast.
But yeah, it's mad. Like Nottingham Forest fired their director of football that they got in 6 months ago, which is crazy. Leicester City, now Brendan Rodgers moved on.
Dean Smith is
John
back.
Terry's an assistant manager, I think.
Oh yeah, Craig Shakespeare.
And Southampton.
Craig Shakespeare is that? Craig Shakespeare is where? Craig Shakespeare took a job. Where was it?
Yeah, I think is it Leicester City?
It's not Leicester, is it?
It looked like him. It looked very similar to him in the photo I saw.
Craig Shakespeare, is he back at Leicester? Ah, he's back with Leicester. I didn't even
give it
realize.
Shakespeare at the end of the season.
Yeah, he's back. He's assistant manager of Leicester City.
There was talk of Martin O'Neill getting the Leicester City job. Now, Martin O'Neill might make them a wee bit harder to beat, make them a wee bit more defensive, but they'd be mad to hire him. Like he's so off it now. Like I think his time has passed as a manager. So I don't know who's currently getting linked to it at the moment, but I would say they need a rocket up them. Because they are
to him because they know they're going to the championship.
Huh?
Are they linked to him because they know they'll go to the championship?
Well, like they're still got game. It's still all to play for, Ali. Like you can't have that attitude. Like especially Leicester City. Like Leicester, like their fall from grace is incredible.
Weren't they like 6th last season? And the season before won an FA Cup. What happened?
Like they've got a tough run in as well. They've got Wolves next week. The next 3 games are their most winnable games for the rest of the season. Wolves next week at home, Leeds away, Everton at home.
Oh, Leeds away is going to be big.
And then they have Fulham away, really tough. Liverpool at home, we'll see. That might be one of the easier games.
Yeah.
Newcastle away. And then I suppose the last game of the season is winnable as well. West Ham at home. So there's points to be made, but they need to come out probably with at least 2 wins from the next 3 games against those teams around them to have a good crack at it, because they're 6 pointers, and they're already 2 off Everton, and 4 off Leeds. So they really can't afford to they can't afford to draw those 3, and they can't afford to lose against Everton or Leeds. They need to beat those 2 realistically, or at least one, at the very least one of them, and go and beaten against Wolves and either or the other 2 teams. But yeah, it's mad just how much they've fallen. But it just shows you now more than ever in the Premier League, if you stand still, you're moving backwards. You're not going to stay where you are. Like the need for investment constantly, the need for innovation, and like you constantly have to be on it. It'd be interesting to see how long it lasts for the likes of Brentford, and Brighton. Like, will it come to an end of a cycle like it has done for Leicester? Like with Brighton now, especially that Chelsea have bought loads of the backroom staff. Be interested to see like a couple transfer windows down the line. Are they still absolutely smashing it, or what the situation is? But yeah, we'll see. But Leicester's fall from grace is crazy, and like still got players like James Maddison, Jamie Vardy.
James Maddison reeks of Newcastle, does he?
Yeah,
He's just gonna go to Newcastle. It's not.
and
Tielemans is gonna go to the Bundesliga.
You think so? Who's he getting linked to?
No, I don't know. Nobody.
I don't know. I think Tielemans reeks of just either he could easily land at Chelsea as like a like just like I wouldn't even be overly fussing, but I could just see like them being like, oh, like if Mason Mount and Gallagher go or something like that, and just be like, oh yeah, we'll scramble, we'll get Tielemans in. But
let me pick you up on something. Sorry,
what?
very short. You said something about Leicester and standing still, the need for investment and innovation. It like rang in my ears that I took a note of it down. Investment and innovation. Leicester. Chelsea. Investment. A lot of investment.
But it's come too late.
No. I don't think so. I think I said something about the Chelsea transfer. I said it multiple times that this is the worst window anyone has had in the Premier League. You talk about innovation. That is just completely uncreative. The amount of spend and the type of spending that they did on players is uncreative, and frankly reeks of people that didn't at the time know what they were going for, and found a ultimate, like, it was a depleted squad. I remember that Christmas league up to January before all those signings came in. Carney Chukwuemeka would start, and yeah, you just had loads of injuries. Like the list was growing. And maybe, yes, you did need to recycle things, to invest. But it was done in the worst way you could have. And now it's happened again, Fergal. It's happened again.
We've moved on then, have we?
Moved on from what?
From Leicester and stuff.
I guess so. I just wanted to put that out there because, I think my point is being emphasized here in the strongest way.
I still don't know. I think you're looking at the correlation, not necessarily the causation.
No, I've said it since the start, Fergal. Said it's not gonna work.
No, but I think you're correlating it with you're correlating the bad performances now, or like the bad, like just the whole situation now, and like the amount of money we spent in January is obscene. It's definitely it's definitely lazy. It's lazy in terms of like we're sort of just went who's the best wonder kid we can get, and just went out and got a couple of them. But I think we've overspent for players. I don't think we've gotten in bad players in January.
You didn't get bad players, but you got a ton of players that don't know what to do together and haven't played the system that Graham Potter has done for. And you ended up, once the injuries were done, you ended up with a manager that managed one top flight English team in his career, unless Swansea was also top flight.
No.
So just Brighton. The need for Graham Potter to manage 31 either elite talents or really glittering wonder kids, or like the best young player in the World Cup, or very big egos. 31 of them. Like the squad is even too big to be involved in a squad in a season. That's the other part of it. Is the chemistry straight away once all these signings were done. It was such an easy prediction to make, and I made the prediction. Like, they won't gel in time to at least get anything out of this season.
No, it's a fair point, but I still think like these signs weren't made for this season, really. Like,
well,
that's probably not fair. That fair statement, because they probably, I think they might have. I mean, it's hard to know what you'd need to Todd Boehly here to ask about why certain things were done in January as opposed to waiting. They definitely probably wanted an upturn in performances, and maybe thought they could go for fourth. I think some of it might have been knowing that they weren't going to get fourth, so we should try and get the signs done now, while we're still a Champions League club. And you've always got that. Well, potentially we can still get Champions League for next season at the point in January. You can still try and kind of sell that to players. But I don't know. I still think like the players that were brought in, well, two of them are fantastic signings. Like fantastic footballers. The deals that were done for them. Well, Badashile's deal seems valid for money.
Badashile is the best signing.
Enzo, unbelievable player. Delighted to have him. We had to pay a lot for him.
Fair enough.
Modric, I'm still. I wish we could just play him as a bloody winger, like in the sort of role that he wants to be. But I see that going forward. Like it seems so obvious that we're setting up for a 4-3-3 system. Like just the investments that were made. Like I like the look of Madueke whenever he's come in. Are we missing anybody? There was quite a lot.
Well, there's a lot of people.
Badashile, Modric, Enzo, Madueke, and Felix. And Felix is probably the one that hasn't worked out at all. And we maybe should have went for just a. I think I was wrong. We definitely should went for a striker of some sort. Even like James Alcott suggested Danny Ings, and I'm like, you know what, that's really not a bad idea. Like even if we could have got a loan or something like that.
Yeah.
Like just a seasoned goal scorer in the Premier League, that is able to do an average striker job, because at the moment we're well below average in that position. But Felix, I mean, well, I had this thought the weekend. It's hard looking through the prism of Chelsea to know what players are good and what players are bad at the moment.
Off the back of
Like,
Chelsea 1, Brighton 2. Just
yeah, like
reminder.
I'm looking at players and I'm like, I swear you were good.
I remember
Like
you
were
being
good at your you were good at your old club, weren't you? Or is that am I getting mixed up with somebody else? Like this like dimension of Chelsea. It's like they walk through a portal and they're like distorted into this like terrible footballer. Like so, it's hard to know like what the true ability of these players are at the moment. And ideally, we would just pause Chelsea for a season, and somehow be able to stay in the Premier League and just go. We're not going to play. We won't take any money this season, but we're just going to skip this one out, and we just send everybody out on loan to a club that suits them, and we'll just watch them outside of the Chelsea prism and just go. Yeah, you're good. You're good. You're not right. We were right about you. You're not so good. And then we'll just come back and reassess. I feel like we just need to hit like a massive reset button, and do that. Like we don't know which way it's up at the moment. But one thing's for certain is like the players have given up on this season. Like, it's so like Frank Lampard's come in, and Frank, like he's so much about hard work and all, and at times it can be a bit jarring, or maybe you should think a bit more about tactics or stuff like that. But at the moment, it is all about the basics, and in the little bits I've heard from his press conference, he's spot on. There's no aggression. We need to earn the right to play. When the ball's played into the forwards, the ball's bouncing off them. Defenders are easy picking it off. Felix is just like against Real Madrid. He just couldn't hold on to the ball. It just was not good enough.
Felix showed exactly why he's not a striker. The one-on-one they had with the goalkeeper, and then Militao kind of recovered, and Shaw was easily saved. Thierry Henry was in the CBS studio.
Mm-hmm.
He made such a good point. Whenever he took the first touch, okay, good. Second touch, he took it wide. Well, he should have taken it inside
across the
defender, to put him behind his back. Then
it's either a red card or it's a goal, or a really good chance even, because you still got Courtois to beat. But Felix is hold up play like. But I don't even believe that it's a lack of strength. I think it's a lack of like just willpower at the moment. Nobody's they're just not up for it.
There's nothing to play for.
They haven't got the fight in them at the moment to really want it. I don't want to say they're not trying, because I really don't feel like that's ever the case. But I think it's a lack of just motivation at the moment, and this is how it's showing.
Yeah.
And the effort levels aren't where they should be.
Yeah. And it's natural, I suppose, because they're 11th. Yeah. They're 39 points. Any position close to Europe is 10 points away, which is Brighton, who have 2 games in hand on them. So
and we don't want it. Like the club might want it, and if we don't trim this squad down, it would be good to have just pointless games to give minutes to people.
Mm-hmm.
So even if we end up in the Conference League, but if we have this size of squad, then we actually do need the extra games.
Yeah.
And you're I always the Europa League. I always especially the group stages. If you're unsure about a youngster or whatever, if we could give minutes to if Modric still is a bit iffy going into the next season, a group stage in Europa League would be unbelievable for him. I think that would give him the confidence needed to then go into the Premier League or whatever, and really do well. I've seen it with a good couple of players, like Hudson-Odoi. Sort of whenever he was playing well, it kind of started in Europa League and stuff like that. So, and Harry Kane famously was that was where he got his start. But yeah, just a lack of aggression, not winning any tackles, really. Not winning the second balls, just like just not a lack of effort. We need to go back to the basics. But there's not much to play for. Like the Real Madrid game, especially after that Brighton result, it feels like a mile off. So like now I'm thinking, I think you just like focus on like Frank. Well, it's hard to know what Frank's motivation now is. I feel like he's just gonna be like he can't really do anything to. He can try and get results and like prove that he's like the man for the job, but I think that's past already. Like he needed to really hit the ground running to be able to like earn his spot as like Chelsea manager. But I think now what maybe he could do, and then it would be appreciated by the club, is to like from this point on sort of play like the players that we know for a fact are going to be here, and the players that have been invested in. So you play like the likes of well, I actually like it. Maybe not. This is kind of a contradiction to that statement, but Mount I'd like to see played to see if we can convince him to stay. But in saying that, after the game at the weekend, Gallagher, I'm convinced now Gallagher has to start, especially when we haven't got a proper striker, because he's one of the only goal threats we have. So I feel like him, a midfield of Gallagher, Kante, and Enzo, I think is a really nice, balanced midfield. And I'd like to see that in like a 4-3-3 going forward. But I think Gallagher at the moment, like there's just nobody else that looks up for it, and especially in terms of from front of goal, like we saw him last year. So if you give him that freedom, like he had at Palace, I feel like goals will come from him. And especially with the forwards we have, that if you have him running off of them, in these players like Felix and Havertz that like to maybe drop in the midfield, I feel like something's going to happen there.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I like to see Mount in there as well. Modric might as well give him a run of games now, unless he has a terrible run and it's just knocking his confidence actually getting those minutes. But yeah, the likes of Ziyech who came off the bench, I'm like, we've been here before. Pulisic started, and yeah, all of those types of players, like we should. I'm also done with Kovacic. I'm like,
so
I've had my fill of Kovacic. I just am like, he's not it. He's just never quite done it for me. He there was a moment. Sorry, he had. That's a bit harsh on him. For a while. For a while, he kind of had a calendar year where he was brilliant. It wasn't necessarily in like right through a season, but under Tuchel at times he was exceptional, but he just is. He's too much of like a sideways merchant a lot of the time, and like Enzo in the game against Madrid, it was just like he was just like he was just trying stuff, and he ended up forcing it. There's nothing for him, like, and Kovacic is just there, just getting the ball, passing it sideways, and
find Enzo does something like too adventurous, gives it away.
The mad thing about Enzo is Chelsea just decided to extend his contract.
Yeah, 1 year. I don't know why that is. Why?
It was an option there, and then they've just triggered it. But why? We've got 8 years to like decide whether we want to do this.
It will be something to do with FFP.
Oh, that's a shout. That would make sense.
It will be. There's no other explanation. But anyways,
there's worrying reports that I can't remember who reported it or how verified this is, but there's reports saying that Todd Boehly and Gaelic Capital aren't too worried about FFP after looking at the previous fines for breaching FFP. Which, if you have that attitude, and unless the rules are written in a way where there's a clear cap on how much a team can be fined, but if you open yourself up with that sort of attitude for a fine, they may want to rip you a new arsehole if you have that. Do you know what I mean? If you're going into an FFP and you're like, yeah, give us whatever you want, we'll write the check, baby. Like, you know, they might just go, right, we'll just add another 0 and one more 0 and what, you know, they might just do you over if it's like, especially like whenever the Premier League is just the other clubs, like they are competing against you, and we've sort of heard rumors about Daniel Levy having a big impact on the charges brought against Man City.
Yeah.
Like, well, we don't know how true it is, but he you can tell he would be pretty miffed about it. So if like Chelsea are given the aura whenever they meet the other owners of like, we don't really care about FFP and we'll just pay our way out of it. Well, I can see that being a bad omen, and like we literally will pay for it in the end. I also don't want that to be Chelsea as a club. Like, we're already bad enough for it. So the fact that I really do hope that they try and balance the books somewhere, or just be more sensible with the signs. But the spending doesn't seem to be stopping. Like it will be less this summer, but we're still getting linked to loads of players. Like Nkunku's still going to come in. There's talks of Felix being for 85 million, which I think is just ludicrous, especially when he's shown that like he just it may, again, it's hard to assess players in this current moment, but it'd be ridiculous to do it. And considering we need a striker, we could do with maybe a goalkeeper. Like there's places that actually do need investment and would be significant investment required. So, and we need to sell. We need to get Marina Granskaya in for a summer transfer window.
Yeah.
And go, Marina, can you take out the world's elite directors of European football and wine and dine them to get them to sign Pulisic for 30 million, Ziyech for 25, blah, 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 blah. We need a bit of that.
You know what? You know when you look at something and you're like, nah, I don't feel this. Todd Boehly.
I still think that, like,
I don't feel it.
We just need stability as well now. I feel like things are just pure chaos now, that we just need stability, and they just need to go. They just need to, like.
Well, the concerning point is that he already, like, the more chaotic part should have passed long ago, months ago, at the start of the season. Yeah. When he took over. That should have been the point where stability starts to reign. Like, you have a squad, you have a transfer window, just operate as usual.
Yeah.
And the window, I believe the window is what caused all this. It became unusual, and it became too hectic, and it became too many moving parts, and too much for Graham Potter, who didn't choose the players to deal with.
It did feel like it was a bit, like the whole thing is just a bit rushed, or like just late in reacting, or like they've made a bad decision and then they don't want to undo it, sort of thing. So, but now I think it's about stability. So having a stable squad to start off with, so we need to clear out. Then Todd Boehly, I'm hoping now that he's hired the two director of footballs, he takes a step back, which was always kind of what was being talked about it was going to do, but hopefully he really does take a step back more now, and whatever these guys decide on, let's just stick with that plan and see it through for at least 18 months. I feel like it will take 18 months of just like stability to like see whatever it is to come to fruition, because it is that much of a mess that it will take that amount of time. It could easily take 2 or 3 transfer windows to get a stable squad, like and to get the unneeded players off the books, and to get everybody that wants to be there, the only players there, and all the rest of it. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a big project.
Yeah, massive. All right, we will now go to Harry because we have a team 35 points ahead of Chelsea to talk about. We're also top of the table still, but it's starting to get to panic mode. Harry's here. Rant starts now. Honestly, though, how are you? How are you feeling about this?
What's this?
So
today's result, just in general,
the whole situation, given that you've had a few hours now, good amount of time to reflect and breathe.
Well, see, you might think that my attitude towards it has changed because I've had time to come to terms with it. But what you've got to understand
here,
it's less that, and it's more that such was the way the game drifted that my anger peaked kind of around when they equalised after 55 minutes, whenever it was.
Yep.
And then we just did absolutely nothing for the next 40 minutes, and so I'd cooled down by full time. Like I was spent emotionally. Just nothing happened to kind of change the way I felt. So yeah, like I feel the same way I did as when the whistle blew to end the game, obviously. And that is, well, not very happy, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Yes, I can see it.
Yeah, probably, and I've, it's been a good season, very good season, but even this season, there's always games you're annoyed with, stuff that can be done better, things you're unhappy with. But this is by far the most angry I've been all season with a performance, with a result, with just the way that we actually conspired to throw the result away.
Sorry, it just occurred to me.
Yeah.
This is the closest you've ever been, or this is, I think, the joint or second closest you've been to losing your top table position.
Well, they did overtake. Yeah.
They overtook at one point around the time they played in the league.
Yeah, it was after that. Then we also, at that point, we'd played a game less. Such was kind of the way the fixtures went.
The reason why I'm pointing this out is that this point and your reaction to it, and you saying, "Oh, I've never been this angry this season," is the exact feeling I had when we drew to Everton 0-0 at Mercy at Goodison Park. That was the point where we lost the top position and never saw it back. Never took it back.
Yeah.
And before we started this recording, I would have said you're still fine, but now you pointed this out, I just had a feeling. My heart just skipped a beat. And I really want Arsenal to win the league. I really do.
Yeah.
But
I don't know what the kind of points differential was at that point. Obviously, I do know Man City and Liverpool had already played each other twice at that point in the season, so there wasn't kind of this looming head-to-head, which is kind of the elephant in the room, and has been for a few weeks, to be honest. Even when we've had a bigger gap, it's always been, but they've got games in hand. We've still got to play them away. They're very good at home. Like, there's kind of all these, little demons in kind of the back of your head. And look, it feels like they're ticking along. I mean, they're really finding probably their best form of the season. And we're not. We've just spluttered a little bit. I mean, look, we've not even lost a game, but we've just drawn a couple of times, and like with them, that's all it takes sometimes. They're that ruthless, they're that sharp onto you. If you just drop even 5, it was the same with Liverpool. Never lost a game after they lost to Man City, but it was just a few draws, a little bit of a loss of momentum, and that was all it took. And they smell blood, as all good sides do, and it's something we're going to have to deal with kind of as they chase us down. I think what we've seen today is that I think at this point we've lost the ability to have any more slip-ups, it feels like, and that includes the game against them. And it includes all the other games. We could go there and get a draw, say, but then if we go and lose to Newcastle, or lose to Chelsea, or lose to Brighton, one of those sort of tricky on-paper games, they can still overtake us. And maybe it's a bit unrealistic to just expect them to keep winning every game, but you have to go in with the attitude that they are going to do that. And they have been doing that as of late, whether the fixtures have kind of been a little bit kind, because you would expect them to beat Leicester, you'd expect them to beat Southampton. You know, these are games I expect City to win, and they are winning them. But equally, I would expect us to beat West Ham, and I'd certainly expect us to beat West Ham at 2-0 up after 10 minutes. And that sort of brings me back to why I'm so angry with this result today, and the way it's conspired is, and we spoke about this last week, the whole Xhaka stuff and the whole magic of Anfield, as if it's some, you know, football kingdom where bizarre things happen, and you know they do to an extent, but that for me took away from what was a wider issue, which was we were 2-0 up, had the game where we wanted, and essentially just kind of messed around a little bit, stopped playing, stopped being ruthless. And I can take it at Liverpool, right, because they're still a dangerous side, it's still a tough place to go, whatever you think of their form this season. I can't take it against West Ham, 15th in the table West Ham, who just coming off, I mean, they were completely battered by Ghent on Thursday, just had a Europa League game, they lost their last home game 5-1 to Newcastle. I just can't accept what I've seen today in that performance, where we were 2-0 up, and between scoring that second goal and half time, essentially until we get the penalty, which is then missed by Saka, we had one shot, which is just unacceptable given the position we were in, how much of the ball we were seeing. But it was just possession for the sake of it. We played the game in front of them. We invited them on to kind of put in reducer challenges, which they were kind of doing all day, which is the least you'd expect in a London derby. That's the leveler, right? They're going to make it physical. They're going to make it tough. They're going to try and get the crowd on side. But you've done the hard part. You've quietened the atmosphere down. You've taken the occasion out of it. You're 2-0 up. You've got the game where you want. Just be professional, you know? And the goals we give away, I mean, the penalty is just, I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of the way we're conceding goals at the moment, where teams don't have to do very much to score against us. Whether it's been this ridiculous run of set pieces we keep conceding from post-World Cup, whether it's been giving penalties away, whether it's...
dive from Gabriel Migales was pretty bizarre.
Didn't need to do it, but like again, you know, does Thomas Partey need to be trying to flick the ball over Declan Rice, who's like the only West Ham player pressing in our half? Like, it's unbelievable what we've actually done there from a position of, you know, relative calm, playing it around the back. It's such sloppiness. It's unbelievable for a team that's 2-0 up, and you've got to be so mentally switched on at this stage of the season. You've got to grind results out. And the way we were playing that game, you would think we were 4 or 5-0 up, and it was the 85th minute, and you're just winding the clock down, waiting for the next game. And I find it so hard to stomach that we've then let them back into a game. And I was going mad at half time. I was so angry with that, because a bit like last week, it didn't reflect the quality gap between the teams going in 2-1 at half time. And it makes the game much more complicated than it needs to be. Now, we then miss a penalty, and then they score a couple of minutes later, and I think the other thing that's worrying is what little response there was to them actually equalising, because so many times this season we've been pegged back, and I think what we've done so much better than we did last year is found ways to get results from positions of difficulty, because last season we really struggled. We only won one game from behind the entirety of last season. This season we've been a lot better. We've gained a lot of points from losing positions or when we've been pegged back. But really in that last half an hour, because they equalised after 55 minutes, and as I said, we just let the game drift. Nothing really happened, and that's the other thing that was a little bit concerning. We just ran out of ideas, ran out of legs, and I can't take that, because we've had a week off and they've played on the Thursday night, so you'd think if anything it should be the other way around, but they pose more threat. They look the more likely, and it's a little bit worrying for us, if I'm honest, because that is a team that we should be beating, and there's harder tests to come than that.
The most worrying thing about it for me was that I found... Okay, so let's track back a little bit here. I only watched the second half because I'm doing Ramadan. I stayed up until like 5 a.m. So I slept. I woke up at the start of the second half.
Yeah.
So, but it was, you were 2-1, but it felt all half from the start that you were playing on eggshells a bit. Like
we did. Yeah. Well, certainly once they got it back to 2-1.
And just there was no kind of urgency at all about restoring the 2-0. If you'd scored a third, it's game over.
Yeah.
And then Mikel Arteta seemed to make substitutions that were...
I didn't like his subs today.
Way overthought. Like, how do you bring out Gabriel Jesus when you need a goal? Like,
yeah, I don't get that.
Work?
And he was the best forward as well. He actually took the two forwards that were sort of like Saka had a very poor game, not just the penalty. He just didn't play well in general, and yet he stays on, which is fine. But then Martinelli comes off. Don't agree with that. Jesus comes off. Don't agree with that. And he throws. I mean, I understood bringing Trossard and Jorginho on because it felt like we needed to just get a bit more control of the game. The way it was going, it was becoming a little bit end to end, and with the personnel that we had missing, I think particularly Saliba and Zinchenko, I think what we didn't want to happen was it to become kind of an end to end because we didn't have the players in the backline to deal with it physically in Rob Holding and technically in someone like Tierney and Holding, where it just felt like they would put it forward.
For that exact reason, for the physicality.
Exactly. I don't love him as a player. I think it's well documented what I think of Jorginho as a player, right? I've made my thoughts very clear on the guy. However, I understood it in this scenario, and I understood bringing Trossard on. The two subs I didn't particularly like were Vieira and Nelson because they just felt like Hail Marys, just chuck them on and hope something happens. I don't see how that makes us stronger, bringing them on and taking... I think it was Erdegaard went off towards the end. Martinelli went off. Jesus went off earlier for Trossard. There was someone else that came... I can't remember. It might have been Tierney. Came off for Vieira, and I looked at it. I thought it doesn't seem particularly well thought out. And we've had good strategies for chasing games at points this season, but the subs in the last couple, I haven't loved. If I'm honest, I don't think he's got them right. And I think if he looks at himself in the mirror and looks back at those games, I think he would probably admit that. But this went wrong way before that because we never should have been in this situation where we were needing to chase the game again. It should have been done and dusted at 2-0, and then even at 2-1, getting at half time, I want to see a response. Just like last week, I wanted to see a response in the second half, and it didn't come. And it's just immensely frustrating because I can take slipping up, like it is what it is. Like most teams in this league can beat you on their day. But I really dislike the idea of getting into a position of strength, having the game where you want it, and then giving the initiative back. Not even the opposition having to do anything particularly special. Literally giving them a goal, giving them a penalty out of absolutely nothing, to let them back in and cause the occasion to sort of be what it became. It was just utterly bizarre. It was mind-boggling, and it's immensely frustrating that now... as I said, we're in this position now where we can't make it. It doesn't feel like we can make any more mistakes because it just feels like if City can get their noses in front, which have been good at stopping them doing so far, just about managed to keep them behind us. If they get their noses in front, it feels like they will be ruthless with it. Now, look, who knows? They've got a lot of games to play between now and the end of the season, but I must be honest, it's not particularly a chance I want to take, letting them get in front of us and having them to chase them down. You've been there as a Liverpool fan. They're very tough to reel in. Even if they do drop the odd point, it's bloody difficult to be more consistent than them. So it's going to be tough, mate, because our fixtures are definitely harder than theirs as well, and they have been. It's kind of the leveler has been having that buffer and maybe having less games to play than they do. But that's out the window now because it's all in their hands, and we're going to have to go up there and put in a much better performance than we have been. We don't seem to be able to keep clean sheets at the moment, and that isn't the foundation for results in the run, and having to score 2, 3, 4 goals every single game to win. It just doesn't feel sustainable.
Manchester City have not gotten any result apart from a win since Saturday, February the 25th, 4-1 against Bournemouth. I don't know what to say, man. Good luck.
Yeah, it's tough. Look, they're very tough, and it's mentally draining to kind of watch them every week and hope they're going to drop points because it's sort of, it feels like as soon as they score, they've won the game, and with us at the moment, it doesn't. It feels like you can peg us back, and it's just immensely frustrating. And they're not perfect. Like, they were a bit dodgy second half against Leicester, but the difference was they'd killed the game off. They had a 3-goal lead, not a 2-goal lead. And it's the old cliche, isn't it? Most dangerous scoreline in football. But the football I've watched us play at 2-0 up in the last couple of games, it reaffirms that belief because we've sort of bought into the fact that we're in a better position in the game than what we actually are. It only takes one goal for it to quickly shift, particularly away from home, and we've fallen foul, I think, to our own complacency is the only word I can use for it. The way we've approached the 2 games at 2-0 up and let them drift and been a bit, a bit slack, to be honest with you. I don't like it, mate. I don't like what I've seen.
Also, I don't think protecting a 2-0 lead is particularly difficult, but especially
it certainly isn't as difficult as we've made it look. As I say, I can take it happening at Anfield, like whatever. I think Liverpool are a good side. I know you don't, but they can do that to most teams. I can't take it against West Ham. And there's no disrespect to West Ham. They played very well today, and they'll probably stay up now. So I don't mean this in any way to sound like sour grapes, but I'm so frustrated with what we've done there. I'm so frustrated because we were in such a good position. I was looking at the goal differential and thinking we're on 45 now at 2-0 up. Man City at 50. Like, the West Ham fans were almost booing the team after 10 minutes, and I'm looking at it and thinking, there's a 5 or 6-0 for us here. Like the Newcastle one there, where they beat them 5-1. I just sort of thought, well, the way they're defending here, we could really be ruthless, and surely we're not going to make the same mistake as last week. And it's almost like the players bought into the Xhaka thing and the Anfield thing, and not enough was made of the idea that actually, guys, you were complacent at 2-0 up, and we've done it again, and we've been punished for it again.
Harry, sound exactly like me 4 years ago. And again, all I have to say is good luck.
Thank you, mate.
Texas.
Cheers.
Right, let's take the usual wrap around Europe. The Bundesliga is fascinating, Fergal. It's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 4 teams, the top 4 teams, right? Bayern, Dortmund, Union Berlin, and RB Leipzig.
Mm-hmm.
Bayern 1, Hoffenheim 1. Stuttgart 3, Borussia Dortmund 3. Gio Reyna had scored in the 93rd minute. And Silas Katumpamfumpa, hopefully I said that name right, scored in the 97th minute to make it 3-3. So at one stage, Dortmund was leading the league again, just to throw it away in the 97th. And Stuttgart are in the relegation playoff spot because of that goal rather than the automatic relegation spot. Union Berlin won. Bochum, who are in 15th, won. The only team that won in the top 4 was RB Leipzig. Timo Werner. I saw that goal on Instagram. It was like it was a long ball ahead. He just like took a touch. It stood up for him, and from 20 yards out, volleyed far corner. Like it dipped in. It was such a.
I have not seen this
goal. It's fascinating.
and you're making this up.
It's fascinating. It's the only way to describe it. It's a really good goal. It's fascinating. Where does that come from for Timo Werner? Like, if that was him at Chelsea, he would like take it down.
This is exactly the point I'm making, Ali. The prism of Chelsea is just mad.
The prism of
It's
Chelsea.
exactly the point I'm making. Anyway,
Tammy Abraham, former prisoner of Chelsea, scored. Let's get into our tabs on Tammy. He scored. It was a great header, actually, against Udinese. They won 3-0. They sit in third. Roma are third in the table. There was a time when they were like 6th or 7th or 5th or like hovering around that. But you know why they're third? It's because Milan and Inter are like really bad. Inter lost at home to Monza. Milan drew away to Bologna. And Napoli drew at home to Hellas Verona, but we've maintained they've already practically won the league. So less of concern about that. Sarah's just like Sarah's the Bundesliga of old is like, yeah. Now, whatever anyone else does is almost irrelevant in that top 4 space. But Roma winning is huge because they had a rotated squad. They have a few injuries. Tammy didn't start. I think Tammy came on as a substitute. But Paulo Dybala is injured. They have loads of other injuries. So yeah.
Master Mourinho. It'd be great to see it. Well, like there's been it. Not sure if Mourinho will stay on or not. It's not the case with Roma.
I don't know.
there's rumors that he wouldn't stay on, but surely if they got Champions League, that
Honestly,
he would.
I'd like him I'd like to see him stay on.
I think it really suits him, doesn't it?
It does.
This type of club, like, it's still a big club, but not like one of the serial winners.
Yeah.
So you have that underdog tag, and like there's so much like Roma just is a great wee club. Like,
Yeah.
I say we is like is a bit patronising.
Like, yeah,
it's
not. I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
In Ireland, we say we chuck it into everything, or in Northern Ireland, we chuck it into everything.
Yeah, I figured as much. I've known you for 3 years.
I know, but it's just in case. It's more for the listeners, Ali. You know, the way there's some people listening amazingly to this.
I know.
Just in case that.
Yeah, sorry, listeners. Okay. The one last thing I wanted to mention about like kind of Serie A is Lazio. Lazio is second place, pretty much locked in for the Champions League. But the footballing matters aside, I don't know if you heard about Immobile, Fergal. I'm sure the viewers have seen it by now all over the news. But this morning, Immobile got involved in an accident in his car with a tram, and is actually currently hospitalized. He sustained like rib fractures and I read trauma to his spine. Which, it seems, well, it's bad enough to get him hospitalized. And the news article sadly had images of the car in the accident. It was totaled. It was pretty difficult to see. So yeah, just wishing.
And I see he scored in the last game for them as well.
He did. Yeah, just hoping everything is okay with him. The report that I read is also like he's in an okay condition. He's being monitored and everything. So maybe it's just like a season-ending injury. He'll be back in the summer, hopefully. Or maybe even better, it's just like a break thing in his spine that'll recover. I don't know. Just
it's not speculative,
like as little damage as possible, please. So. Yeah, just would be remiss of us not to have mentioned that. Just wishing Immobile all the best. Ready for the short king of the week? Because I think the pick is obvious. I had two candidates, but one of them has to take it.
Go on.
Can you guess? Okay. The first and less likely to take it is Brahim Diaz. Bit of a Champions League review here. I watched the Napoli-Milan game, or Milan-Napoli. Brahim Diaz created the goal, even though he didn't get the goal or the assist. But he took the ball in midfield and a side foot, like he touched the ball with the side of his foot and then turned 180 degrees and spun around the three Napoli midfielders, which. It was poor of the Napoli midfield to all press one player, but the way it took genuinely a split second to do so. 2 touches to get around all of them and just opened all of the rest of space to himself up until the 18-yard box. Puts it across the Leao assists Ben Nasser comes in and scores. That turn is, to me, is worthy of at least consideration. But my bigger candidate, equally a short king at 5'8", Giulio Enciso. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah, I was thinking
of him before.
I forgot in my rant against Chelsea. I forgot to just talk about how good Brighton were. They're really just like such a good team and like so well put together. And they lose. Who was it? Evan Ferguson went off. I haven't actually heard what his injury's like. It really wasn't a good day for me. I was like, I was kind of thinking, well, you know, if Chelsea lose, Evan Ferguson might score at least, and then he went off injured. So, but yeah, and so who was it his substitution? No, it was Veltman's substitution.
Yeah,
Veltman went off. He was playing right back. Pascal Gross goes into right back. Then McAllister drops in the centre mid, and then Enciso, I think. Enciso,
yeah.
he came on, and it's like and what a goal it was, and he great. Like the whole team played really well. I'm just trying to find the stat I got about Brighton. Brighton's 26 shots was the most by an opposing side at Stamford Bridge in the Premier League era.
Yep.
So, and that was their very first win at Stamford Bridge as well. But yeah, they're pretty incredible, and his goal was the winner was incredible. My short king suggestion, I do agree with that one. The other one is Eze.
Iberi Eze is a shout.
Iberi Eze, there's a clip of him taking the piss in the corner against Southampton.
Did he juggle it around and then go around the other way?
He's different. He's different.
He's
I'd prefer not to go for him because it does highlight Bazunu's howler. But the second goal was incredible as well. But yeah, I think Eze probably edges it a bit. 2 goals, start of the game, and then just like a little sprinkling of street won't forget.
The streets definitely will not forget Iberi Eze. He is.
I don't think you can give him that stamp of approval just yet.
I think he'll end up that way.
It's going in the right direction. It was like a wee sprinkling of it. Like Tarat would have been proud of some of the skills, some of the It's heading that way.
I don't know if Eze has been a shout for a lot of the Short King awards over the weeks and months of this season. Julian Enciso is a first-time candidate. Did we never give it to Eze? I feel like we have at some point.
Maybe we have.
Surely.
We should have really written this down.
Yeah, we really should. But Julian Enciso, I think there's an element of mystery to him. Like it's yet another. I think he's Paraguayan. Just another South American talent spawned by Brighton that it never crossed our minds before.
No,
the last 2 months. Let's say.
And they've got another one as well. Don't they have like an Argentine? Does it begin with B? His name. They got another Argentine in the summer.
He had an assist the other day. I don't remember his last name, but I know who you're talking about.
It's just non-stop.
Yeah, it's incredible.
When's it gonna end, Ali?
I don't know. when they get to the Champions League is when it's gonna end. Because I think they're gonna do it. I think they'll get at least 5th.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at the table. Aston Villa as well. A great performance against Newcastle.
Oh, definitely. 5-win run, first time. In a long time.
Yeah, that is pretty incredible. Yeah, let's go and Enciso. Let's go.
Enciso.
I mean, we've already previously given it to his Paraguayan comrade in Almiron. Isn't Almiron Paraguayan?
He is.
So
yeah, that happened.
So that works quite nicely.
Cool. Julio Enciso. Fantastic goal, fantastic performance, even as a sub.
Sorry, Ali. I mean, there's been I've noticed because I'm like an Ireland fan and the algorithm is tailored to my Ireland needs. I have seen a lot of Twitter threads about like a golden generation of Ireland football, and there's a few people doing like videos on this golden gen. Is there a golden generation of Paraguayan footballers coming through? Perhaps. Maybe that's something to keep an eye out on. I might try and notice a few more Paraguayan names. But yeah,
maybe if more of them come to Brighton, then potentially South American football is in great hands. All right, that'll be all. Thank you, Fergal. Appreciate it. Lovely little Chelsea special there. I thought. I think.
Yeah, we
do
need to tailor it back now. I think the nail is the nail will be in the coffin this week. The other round, the Champions League games, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So like the nail in the coffin be about Chelsea. We'll try and to stop talking about them because I do feel bad. I'm sick of talking about them because it's been the same story for so long. Nothing's really changed. So we'll try and move on from Chelsea in the coming weeks.
Yeah,
Focus
I think it's
on
also time.
Yeah, focusing on the top four race, with title race, and the relegation battle is all hotting up coming into the crunch time. So, but we'll try to focus on those going forward.
A topic for future week is why is it called a title race and a relegation battle rather than a relegation race and a title battle? But
I feel like that's more football cliches podcast. I feel like that's more their territory. Yeah. They probably have talked about that already, I'd imagine.
I don't listen to football cliches, and I always tell myself I need to listen to it.
Yeah, no, it is great. They're 240 episodes in, and yeah.
Oh yes.
They somehow keep finding niche little things to cover. It's incredible. Like for such a niche idea of a podcast, it's incredible just how much they get out of it, and like it's such a good podcast. Listen, really, really good.
I'll surely give it a listen this week. I've been telling myself for months. You have no idea. I follow them on Twitter. Like,
you know what? Actually, I'm not going to give them any more promotion. They're a good podcast.
Subscribe to us. Follow us.
Yeah, subscribe to us.
All this sort of stuff. We have a Twitter too. Okay, bye.